My guest today almost needs no introduction, as his CV is longer than a 7-foot Essendon ruckman's leg. Currently, he is the Vice President of Australian Sailing, Chairman of Ronstan. He's worked and been associated with Ronstan for 44 years, including 19 years as CEO. He set up Ronstan USA, establishing the brand in America. He has more honours and awards than anyone I know, including an Order of Australia, AM. He sits and has sat on many boards, associations in the marine industry, including Sail America, Sail Melbourne, and Amex, just to name a few. He is the doyen of the Taser class, winning many states and national titles, and his home club is Sandringham Yacht Club, where he also sails at Archibald 31 keelboat. He's a true leader of this great sport of sailing and has given so much back to it. Welcome, Alistair Murray.
Thanks very much, Steve. It's great to be with you. I've enjoyed the interviews so far, and it's nice to be the subject of the latest one. Good on you for doing it.
You were always on my list, and I've looked forward to having this interview you as the figurehead of Ronstan for many, many years, and still right there as the chairman of the board. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a goodie. So today we're going to chat about Australian sailing, which you're very much associated with currently. The Australian sailing team, which you have a lot to do with, and then also Ronstan, as it's been got a lot to do with your current and also and your past. So let's get into it. My first question, what's your role at Australian Sailing and why have you decided to take this role on?
So, Steve, I'm the Vice President of Australian Sailing. I'm vice to Daniel Belcher, who's Matt Belcher's brother. First time in my life I've ever reported to somebody 20 years younger than me. That's been a good experience. He's doing a great job. I'm also part of a really great board there at Australian Sailing. I really enjoy my involvement with it. So why? Well, after 20 years as CEO of Ronstan, I felt that was long enough. You know, I think you can outstay your welcome, and I really felt the need to get out of the way and let the young, enthusiastic people with new ideas like you come through. And so I got out of the way, and as you know, Scott West took over at Ronstan, and I've left a great team there in place. So I've got a lot of confidence to be able to walk away from Ronstan in a day-to-day sense and do some other things. I really felt that there was many other things in life I wanted to do, and in particular, put back into the sport of sailing that I've derived so much benefit from. So it was really, the time was right, and I'm really thrilled to be able to contribute what will be 8 years of my life to the board of Australian Sailing.
Yes, you've definitely, like I said, your CV is very long. I got a glimpse of it earlier today and went through and went, wow, there's so much here, I just can't fit it all in. So I'll
write a book one day, Steve.
I think you need to.
Actually, it'll be about Ronstan. It's one of my my retirement goals is to write up the company's history, but I'm too busy for it now. It's for when I'm an old man sitting in my holiday home down at Meetung. I'll write the book.
Yeah, beautiful. And the new role you're at Australian Sailing, are you enjoying it?
Fantastic. Yeah, I really. It's been for me a great transition in my life. I mean, it's not the only thing I do, but it's I put a significant amount of time into it, and I really do love it, and I believe in it.
Beautiful. Well, that's good. We need someone with passion, and you're one of the most passionate people I know, so that's perfect. So with Australian Sailing, major challenges and opportunities going forward. What have we got to look forward to?
Yeah, well, I guess the challenges and the opportunities are the same. The way I see it is the biggest challenge that Australian Sailing has is all around participation, and that's the challenge. There's not enough people participating in the sport, and that's the opportunity as well. To me, Steve, the Olympic classes, which we're going to be talking about later, but they're a bit like my hair and a bit like yours. They're very thin at the top, and if you look at what we've got there as Australia, here we are, one of the top sailing nations in the world, and yet in any one of the classes you look at, there's only the one or two of the best in the world, or we're ranked in the top 10, and then below that, what have we got? So it's very, very thin at the top, and I'm a big believer in running our participation programs and getting more and more people into sailing so that we can get more and more people bubbling, to the top. Challenges and opportunities, obviously, with coaching, sailing development, the pathways, programs, getting more juniors into the sport and giving them those coaching pathways and classes. And I think another really big opportunity, Steve, is engagement with the sailing community. I think a lot of people, I don't know, it's something to do with being head office. You know, they look at Australian sailing and wonder what they get for their money. And I'd really like to take Australian sailing to the people, engage with the stakeholders, particularly through the yacht clubs, which is our delivery mechanism to the sailors, and have everybody in Australia know Australian sailing, know who's behind it, know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and to be part of that journey with us. So, yeah, I'd sum it all up by saying participation, communication, engagement, and ultimately performance.
As a member of the Australian Sailing Board, what can the sailing community do as a whole to grow sailing? Because it's not easy. It's an expensive sport. It's not like you can just go down to Rebel Sport and buy a cricket bat and just go out to the field and play. You've got to buy a boat and got to turn up to a yacht club, and it's not easy. It's not an easy sport.
There's certainly a perceived barrier to a lot of people. I think a lot of people drive around Beach Road and they look at those lovely yachts out there and they think, gee, it'd be nice to be out there, but they never get around to it. They see it as a step too far. And you say it's expensive. Yes, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. People can crew. They can participate at different levels. I just think as a sailing community, we need to talk it up at every opportunity. You think of the dinner parties we used to be able to go to that we can't at the moment, but you know, every time you engage with somebody who's not a sailor, talk to them about what a wonderful hobby, sport, pastime it is. Talk about it being great for families. You know, so many people want more family involvement with the things they do. I mean, how many sports can you sail with your children, with your partners, you know, with your parents? You know, I mean, you've done it all, and you know, so have I. Talk about what a wonderfully healthy activity it is. I think those of us with keel boats and even two-handed, you know, dinghies, take people sailing that don't sail, give them that chance. Make sure that we're talking to our clubs about being welcoming and involving. I think the clubs have a bit of a reputation or perception as being closed door type establishments, which is a perception that's changing. Let's make sailing encouraging, welcoming, involving. And when we do get people into sailing, let's make sure we communicate with them and involve them through our clubs and through our associations. So good active social programs, good active championships and events and happenings. I mean, if you look at Sandringham Yacht Club, for example, which is my club, one of my two clubs, you know, the number of things that we run, the number of ways we engage with the members, it makes it a great club to belong to. And I think that's a good model. So, yeah, Steve, talk it up, spread the word, encourage people, welcome people, and make it fun for those that are in it as well.
I couldn't agree more. It is the best sport in the world. There's so much to it. It doesn't end. I mean, some of the times the best parts of going sailing is turning up and talking trash in the rigging area, and then having a drink behind the bar afterwards about how good sailing was. And you know, I'm already looking forward to my 16-month-old daughter getting on a minnow, and actually organised yesterday to buy someone else's when their children's have finished sailing. So I'm looking forward to that next phase of my life. So it just keeps going, and you can go until you're dead. My dad did.
Good on you, Steve. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I sail. My favourite boat is the Tazar, as you know, and I've sailed with two of my daughters. I've sailed with my wife currently. And my goal is to sail with my granddaughter Millie. I aim to be the world's oldest dinghy sailor one day. I'm not that far off it now, but you know, one day she's 5 now. In another 10 years, I'd love to think that she's crewing for me. That'd be fantastic. And as I said before, what other sport can you do that in?
No, exactly. And it's very rare that you see a father-son play football. So, you know, it's a sport you've got to kind of retire at when you're 35. And I see a lot of sailors that are out there in their 80s still going around. So you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So part of your role with Australian Sailing is also got some association with the Australian Sailing team. Yeah. So what is your role with the team?
Steve, I don't have a specific role with the team other than as a director of the board. So perhaps I could explain my involvement through the board. I take a vital interest. I mean, I follow the Olympics closely. I follow the team closely. I know all the athletes. I enjoy my relationships with them. But I leave it to the experts, to run the program. And we've got two guys, really heading up the program right now. And Ian Murray, who obviously is very well known, who's he's the director of our program through the Olympics and through to Japan. And Mike McGovern is a new guy that's joined us as high performance director, taking care of the other aspects of the high performance team. And they've got a wonderful, team working with them. So I like to leave it to them to do all the key stuff. The board's role is more about, strategy, governance and culture, and making sure that we provide the framework and the finances and the wherewithal and the support and the mentoring, to help our employees and the sailors to achieve what they can. Personally, I head up our stakeholder engagement and sail pass initiatives on the board, which is, they're the participation programs, which as I said, I'm so passionate about. I believe in promoting participation to ultimately give us a stronger Australian sailing team. I mean, that's the goal of it, and I think that's what we'll achieve one day. But participation in the team itself, like I said, I really leave it to the experts and give them all the support that we can, as does the whole board. And when I look at the board, there's a very strong cross section of skills, and there's a lot that we can bring to bear to help our team be stronger and better for the future.
That's great. I mean, you need those foundations to create the end, the top tier, which is this sailing team, and you guys are doing that for those guys to reach their goals and their, achieve that, last final frontier of winning Olympic gold. So,
well, a good example. Sorry, Steve. A good example of what our involvement would be team selection. Which is obviously
that was my next question.
Oh, was it? Well, you go ahead and ask the question.
Well, some people might know, but I think everyone does now. You were part of the Olympic team selection, selecting people for the team. There was a couple tough decisions this time. The laser class, the NACRA class, very close. You might want to run us past how you go about it.
Yeah. Well, once again, we leave it to the experts. So I'm actually not on the selection team.
Oh, okay.
But what the board does, the board ratifies, it approves all of the selections. So we have committees that put the recommendations to the board, and the board has to be 100% satisfied that all the necessary due diligence has been done, that everything's been considered, that it's been fair, that there's been no bias, that we agree that it's the best selection that will give us the best possible outcome. And if we don't agree for whatever reason, we'll make that clear and we'll have that debate. And ultimately, I guess we have the right of veto, but I'd hate to think that we would need to apply that. So I'm not on the selection committee, but the board, as I said, approves it. And yeah, you mentioned a couple there. Perhaps we just talk about one. The laser class. That was. It doesn't get any tougher than that when you've got the two best laser sailors in the world in Tom and Matt, and so that was a really difficult one. And the hard thing about that is it hurt somebody at the end, and the same as Nathan in the NACRA, Nathan and Haley. It's desperately tough to be the one that doesn't make it. And Tom Burton's a good mate of yours, and a good mate of mine, and he wasn't selected. And Mate, I really felt for him as I know you did, and a lot of people. But you need to understand. Everyone needs to understand that we take the selection so seriously that we put the very best people on the job. And I might not have the whole committee here in my mind, but from memory, the board, the selection panel included, right? It included Ian Murray, Tom Slingsby, Glenn Burke. So Tom Slingsby gold, Glenn Burke multiple world champion, Michael Blackburn, who was their coach and a medalist himself. So he coached both of them. So if anybody should know them well, he does. And Peter Condy as the Australian Sports Commission representative, and also a laser sailor himself of a lot of repute from his time. So those people were on the panel, and they met long and hard and laboured over the decision, agonised over it, and their recommendation to us was ultimately met. So we ratified that. We approved that. That's the selection. There's obviously an appeals process if people feel that it hasn't been the right decision, and Tom has the right to appeal, as does Nathan. But I'd just like to commend both of Nathan and Hayley and Tom, and commend them for the way they accepted the decision and the way they congratulated the people that had been selected, and it showed the true strength of character of all of them. I think it was wonderful. But that's how it works. We put the best people on the job, and it's our job to make sure that they're doing the best job.
It's a fair lineup there for the selection panel, that's for sure. That's some big names.
No other country could boast that, could they?
No, not at all. So looking forward, the team looking at the next Olympics, there's been most boats have been selected now. There's probably a few more spots still up for grabs in a few different classes. So how are we looking?
So I'd like to think we're as back in the heady days of London. I mean, that was the highlight for all of us, was the medal hall there where we got the 3 golds and the silver. I'd love to think we'd do that again, but I think that's going to be a tall order because there was a number of sort of once in a generation sailors. But I'd say, Steve, we're looking strong in 3 classes and looking, like chances in others, and we're a long way from it in others. And perhaps if I, run through it, in the 470, Matt and Will, number 1 in the world, ranked number 1 in the world. And boy, I feel sorry for them that, with the Olympics being postponed, they're on top of their game. And that just means they've got to stay on top of their game, and I guess it gives the people that are trying to catch them more of a chance to catch them, which they weren't too thrilled about, but obviously there's nothing we can do about that. So they'd obviously be gold medal favourites. In the laser, that's the class where we're clearly, number 1 in the world with our longer term program and the record we've got. Matt's as good a chance as any. He's currently ranked number 4 in the world, and he's a fantastic chance for a gold. And in the NACRA, it's our other top class. We've got Jason and Lisa, who are actually ranked 8th in the world, but they're better than that. They're the defending silver medalists. I'd say they're as good as any as a chance to win the gold. So if it all came together, we could win 3 gold medals. That would be fantastic, But 3 medals of any colour would be great. Next tier, I would consider, Steve, and selected would be the 49er boys, the Phillips boys, who are, thrilled for them because they're friends of ours from Sorrento way, back through their parents and whatever. They're currently ranked 13th in the world, and they would aspire to top 10, and we'd love to see them achieve that. And if you're there on the day, you can achieve anything. And in the 49er FX, we've got our Victorian representative Tess Lloyd, and we've got Jamie Ryan. They're ranked number 21, so if they're knocking on the door, and they would hope to get a top 10 as well. So there's a couple of chances. You never know. And so let's just say 3 medals. Maybe it would be great. 4 would be fantastic, and the colours on will sort themselves out. But we're really solid chances for gold in at least a couple of classes. Yet to be selected, Jake Lilly is actually ranked number 7 in the world in the Finn, and he acquitted himself really well, particularly towards the end in the World Cup here, the Gold Cup here in Melbourne. So on his day, he can be really, really something. The 470 women, Nia and Monique, they're ranked 16th. They haven't been selected yet. And also in the laser radial, we're not there yet. We've got Mara top ranked at Mara Stransky at number 19. So yeah, we've got the top, sort of got the middle, and at the very bottom is the 2 boards, the RSXs. I don't think I've missed a class where we don't have anybody, which I think is a real shame for a sailing country like Australia.
Yeah, and as a few of the members that have already qualified have said to me in these interviews, the selection process is really tough for Australia. Like, we set down some really tough standards that you have to hit before you can even be considered.
Yeah. Well, We do, and we've got a fantastic record. You know that with the envy of many. I mean, like if you look at the USA, for example, as a comparison, back in Los Angeles, America won medals in every single class. In every single, can you believe that? And in the last two Olympics, they've only won one bronze. You know, across two Olympics, so they're going through a rough patch. In Australia, you know, yeah, we've had our peaks. Munich, we had a couple of golds, and London was obviously great, and Sydney was terrific. Beijing, we were really, it was great to get that gold and the silvers in Rio. You know, I'd like to it's a bit cyclical. I'd love to think we're on the way up again, and ultimately, I'd like to see us strongly represented across all classes, Steve. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah,
the future of the AST, because you've got to think ahead. The sailing and the Olympics are going to change. We've got a few new classes coming in. Paris 2024, we've got the double-handed keelboat, which looks like there's quite a few teams in Australia that are going to line up and have a crack. We've got the foiling kiteboard, which is a whole new realm, and the windsurf is also going to be a foiling board as well. So, and then I think, what was the other one? The 470 is going to be a mixed group. Yeah. It's a really changing landscape for sailing in the Olympics. What are you seeing going forward?
Oh, yeah, well, obviously there's a lot of changes, and if you're a fin sailor, you wouldn't be happy. Perhaps if you're a men's 470s, you know, top men's crew, you might not be happy, but there's still an opportunity to go forward. Yeah, there's been changes for a lot of reasons, and very tough on the people that get dropped. There are, you know, strong reasons for bringing the others forward. I think the success, you know, remains to be seen, and fingers crossed, and hope that World Sailing's made some good decisions. As far as Australia goes, I just think we need to get stronger in as many classes as we can. We've got to be there. I think the fact that we don't have board sailors is ridiculous. And yeah, we want to be on the foiling board. The double-handed class, as you say, there's quite a lot of interest. We've got our own Jade Cole with Barney Walker. Jade used to work for Ronstan, of course. We've got people like Nick Maloney and Adrian Cahalan and others. And we've got a lot of interest from Australia. And, you know, they'll get all the encouragement and support the Australian Sailing can provide them. In the 470, well, you'd have to say it's a shame that we lose a big medal opportunity there with one class, and it's consolidated to one. But, hey, we've got a lot of top 470 sailors, and I'd like to think that we could, you know, continue to be on top of the world there. And I think, Steve, just, you know, in terms of the direction it goes in and the classes that happen, we just got to focus on having participation in all those classes and the best possible coaches, you know, and coaching programs and support for them. Like if you look at what we've achieved in the past, so much of it has been because of the quality of people like Victor. You know, the most successful sailing, Victor Kovalenko, the most successful sailing coach in sailing history. And even if you look at Blackers, you know, Michael Blackburn in the laser. I went to a sporting awards dinner in Sydney last year across all sports, and Michael won the Australian team coach of the year across all sports, and that was sailing. That was fantastic. So we just need to continue to surround. We need to encourage people. We need to make sure that all the classes are representative, and we need to back them up with the best possible people and equipment and everything we can do. So, you know, it's going to be a changed landscape. That'll be interesting. No particular editorial comment on that, but we've got to do the best of what we've got.
Yeah, you're exactly right. As you said, I'd love for Australia to find someone in that foil board, kite board, you know, category, because we don't really have a kiteboarder at the moment that I know of from outside the Olympic realm. So there's some opportunities.
You should give it a go.
No, I'm not balanced enough. I thought I was, but I'm not.
How's that A class going on foils?
Moth now.
Oh, you've got the moth now. Are you out of the A?
I'm out of the A.
Oh,
yeah, I'm having a crack at something else. I need to expand my my vocabulary, but in the sailing sense. I need to try something different. So
a lot of great moths sailors have been through the moths. Incredible training ground, that one.
As I said to Nathan in my previous interview, it's like no wonder they're called the moth, because it's like a moth to a light or moth to a flame. All
Yeah.
the good sailors turn up there. So fingers crossed.
Well, what
Yeah.
Tom Slingsby did in the last Worlds was
Oh,
incredible.
it almost make you not get a moth, because you're going into an absolute domination. But
Yeah.
Nathan reckons he's going to have another crack at him, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to that rivalry. And Pete Burling hasn't been around for a while, and there's a few others that haven't been there. So even our good friend Paul Goodison, was three times in a row moth champion. So it could be a showdown to end all showdowns coming up in the moth class.
I wish I was 30 years younger, Steve.
I'll be on lap 1. They'll be on lap 2, and I'll be on lap 1, just saying hi, boys, as they go past. All right, let's jump on to the next topic, Ronstan, because it is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Let's go to the start. Your beginnings at Ronstan.
Yeah, well, I love Ronstan so much, and as you say, it is a very big part of my life. Ronstan was one of the first. It might be the same with your daughter, but one of the first words that my kids could even say was Ronstan. I started there in 1976. Was employed by Ron and Stan. There was the story about. I mean, I was a long-haired, 20-year-old.
Is that like in the background?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe you came up with that photo. I haven't even got that photo. I don't know how you got it, but yeah, that's me at the age of 20. So that was probably when I started at Ronstan, and that was sailing in the Corsair Nationals in Queensland.
Who were the guys behind me?
And there were 60 boats, and we came second in the Nationals. I remember that was us. That was us when we won the invitation race, and we crossed the finishing line. That photo. Next to me in the middle is Mike Painter. Is
that Mike?
Yeah, still my best mate. Yeah, you know, Mike, that's him. Yeah, and we'll have to get to watch this. And then the guy in the front is Sean Brown, who is still a really good mate of mine as well. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, 1976. I remember I had to get a haircut for the job interview because I had such long hair, and I went along and met Ron and Stan, and they interviewed me. And at the end of the interview, I think they liked the cut of my jib, and they said, you can start on Monday, but just one thing before you do. And I said, what's that? And they said, you need to have your hair cut before you start working. When I just had a cut this morning, so I went back to the hairdresser and I said, so I need my hair cut for the second time in one day. Anyway, that was 44 years ago. I'd love to make. I've been the chairman now. I'd love to make 50 years. That'd be a nice, symbolic number. Who knows? I started as a sales rep. I started as a territory manager. I'm doing exactly what you're doing, Steve, servicing the customers and building those relationships. That was a great way to start. I used to love my job so much, driving around Victoria, Tassie, South Australia. Then I moved on through sales management and marketing management and export management. And when I did my stints, probably the turning point for me was doing the stints in the USA, where I was there for a couple of years in 1980 and 1981, and 4 years, 92 to 96. So yeah, I just kind of worked my way up through the company and worked with a lot of great people, and all started with Ron and Stan. And I often wonder where I would have been in life if they hadn't started that wonderful company. I have no idea. Could have been anywhere.
Tell the people that watch this video what's your I think it's still ongoing bet or offer if they have a child. What's
I trot this one out every now and then, Steve, that it's a standing sponsorship offer, particularly to our sailing friends, or only to our sailing friends. Let's limit it. If you have twins and they're twin boys, and you call them Ron and Stan, that's good for a $50,000 sponsorship from Ronstan. So it's not. And I've actually, there's been a few people who've been offered that opportunity. I know Glenn and Mel Ashby. I think they thought they were having twins, or they had girls anyway. But the offer was made to them, and it's been made to quite a few people over the years, and everybody's chickened out.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like it. So your background in sailing,
even one child. If you had one child and you called, it was a son, and you called him Ronald Stanley, that'd Perhaps I wouldn't go to the whole 50 grand, but we could come up with a deal.
You did, you know Leah's middle name's Leah Ronstan Brayshaw.
You've left it too late to make the claim, but I know this is not related to our interview, but I've got to throw this one in, that one of my favourite things that's happened to me on my journey through Ronstan is coming across a gentleman in Bermuda who was, I came across him reading some sailing press, and he lives in Bermuda, and he was the president of the Optimist Association. His son Sam was sailing, and when I read it, when I read the article, I actually wrote to him. I said, "You and I have got to become best friends." And he wrote back and said, "I've always wanted to hear from you, and absolutely, let's get together one day." So I became instant best friends with this guy whose name is Ronstan. His name is fair income. His name is Ronald Stan, Ronstan, and he lives in Bermuda with his lovely family. We became friends instantly. You might know that one of my passions in life is rum. I love rum, and you didn't think I'd died and gone to heaven when I got a response from Ronstan from his email address, ronstan@bacardi.com.
Oh,
and
no.
So I sent him a care package of Ronstan stickers and shirts and banners and flags, which he flies from his house, all this stuff. And a few weeks later, I got a care package from him of 3 cases of rum at Ronstan, which was terrific. So anyway, we communicated for a decade, and 2 or 3 years ago, Tracy and I said it's about time, and we contacted and said we're coming to Bermuda, and we stayed at his house with his wife Sue and him, and lifelong friends now. So not only is Ronstan the company I work for, but Ronstan is one of my best mates. Complete aside.
So to get in, to be a part of Ronstan, you pretty much have to be a sailor. What's your sailing background?
Look, I'd say I've done a lot of sailing over the years. I started when I was 11, which was relatively late compared to a lot of people, I guess. My dad, we moved to Williamstown, and my dad signed me up for the Sea Scouts. So I just played in boats for a long time. And then my dad bought the Corsair that you see behind you in 1974, I think it was. And we bought it from Anchor Marine for $1,000, brand new. It might have been $1,600 actually, brand new. And that was, and my dad and my brother and I used to sail together. We raced at Elwood. And so my first yacht race was when I was 16. And I never, so I wasn't coached or anything. I never had a coach, just you sort of learned it all as you went along. None of my friends had coaches either. I sailed lasers, Corsairs lasers, fireballs, ultimate. I had a trailer sailor, the Taser. I had 11-metre one design in America. The Archambault, keelboat now. So I've had a lot of different boats, but the Taser has been my constant. I think I'm on about my 9th Taser. I just think it's a wonderful dinghy. All credit to Frank Bethwaite for designing it. I got a lot of lifelong friends through the class, and I've done a lot of worlds and nationals and things. And I'm not a world beater, but I've had some success there in that class. And the longer I go, the slower I get. And I blame my deteriorating performance on a complete lack of application compared to the people around me. When I see the training that goes in and how seriously even a lot of people my age are taking the Taser class, I'm slack, and my performance is reflecting it. But Tracy and I enjoy it, and I love my keelboat. I love the Wednesdays. Sailing's a huge part of my life, but obviously I never reached the sort of heights that a lot of the people do that we deal with. I mean, I've seen on your interviews you've had Slingo and Nathan, people like that, and that wasn't for me. My chosen path was more business, but it's fantastic to be in a business that enables us to mix with and know and have people like them as our friends, isn't it? I mean,
very much so. It's a great.
I probably left my run a bit late to be to be a real champion.
So 44 years is a long time. You've got to have some personal highlights of your career at Ronstan. What are they?
Yeah, there's been a hell of a lot, but there's a few that stand out. I think the Ronstan bar in Amsterdam would have to be high. That was at the Mets trade show, the go-to place for a great time for 20 years, 30, 25 years. That's a bit of a joke, really, but that Louis there was a lifelong friend like Ronstan. But perhaps more seriously, the team and the culture, to me, that I've had a big part in putting together. I certainly haven't been the only one that's been responsible for it, but it's the thing I love the most about the company, and the thing of which I'm most proud is the team, the culture, how important Ronstan is to people, how much they love it. That's really, really key. Our worldwide recognition, the fact that 70% of our business is overseas, and an even greater proportion of our marine business is overseas than that. I mean, I was looking at our Victorian sales the other day because I've been involved with the BIA of Victoria, and I note that our Victorian marine sales are now only 2% of what we do. And when you think that when Ron and Stan started, our Victorian marine sales would have been 100%. That's a big thing. Really buying the company in 1999, that was a turning point for me personally. At the time, with Michael Hanlon, the chairman at that time, and with Lou Sander and Lane McCook as the sort of two key co-directors, and all of our other partners, many of whom are still there, still part of the structure today. But buying the company with such a wonderful team of people that have been that are lifelong friends, and the difference that's made to my life, that's really wonderful. I hope future generations, come steaming through. So that was a very big. That was probably the highlight, was buying the business. I mentioned my time in the USA. I think as a young man, I was 24 when I was sent to the US by Ron to set up a warehouse on the West Coast. And when I think about the friendships that I have in America, and what it did for me personally, putting me on the world stage in terms of the marine industry, that was key for me. That was the single best thing. But put it this way, the best career move I've ever made, or the two best career moves I've ever made, was going to the States, both times. And Pete Dowden's done it, and we've had Brendan rolling through now, and we've had others along the way. You get that opportunity. That's fantastic. And I think about West Marine as our biggest customer in the world. I set them up because I was there. I never could have achieved that remotely. So the USA, a couple of acquisitions along the way, buying Fredrickson and Anderson, which, those wonderful products from Denmark, and making them part of the team. That was certainly, great. As a personal achievement, I think managing the company through the global financial crisis was a big one. The dollar was worth 72 cents, and it went to $1.10 at one time through that, and the market shrunk by half, so we became 60% more expensive into a market half the size, and we survived through tough management. And I think that was I regard that as a personal achievement, and a great achievement for our management team, was getting us through that. And here we go again, Steve. With the current crisis, with the COVID crisis, once again, the company's stepping up under really magnificent management and with the great staff support. And, it hasn't gone down to the degree as a business that it did in the GFC, but who knows what's ahead of us. This is a really awful situation for everybody. And then just personally, I think that some of the personal accolades for me along the way, obviously being recognised with the Order of Australia for what I put in the marine industry, has been a real highlight of my career. And one that stands out is that I was awarded the US Sailing Industry Achievement Award, actually the inaugural one, and as the only recipient in that year. And I think, for an Australian kid, a guy going to America and working as hard as I could in the sailing industry, that was a real acknowledgement of a lot of the hard work I did. So yeah, many highlights, mate.
Bloody oath. A lot of highlights.
Just a few there, and that's only some of them. And hopefully there's more to come. I'm sure there will be.
Here's a tricky one for you. Over the 44 years, what part's your favourite? Have you got, in terms of product part? Have you got one product that goes, that's my baby, I love that, it definitely is my favourite?
Actually, if you look behind you on the photograph, that's not the product, but my head was so full of RF numbers and FG numbers that that Corsair, those blocks are called power blocks, which was they were the rage back then, large diameter, low friction. And I happen to know they're FICO ones, which was the company that we brought along the way, because they've got a narrow bar across the block rather than a wider one, which the Ronstan had. And those are FG 626s. I remember those blocks from the 70s. Today, look, I'd have to say the RF 2010s, you know, to me, the best product that we've ever done is the sea cleats. You know, it's been, in terms of product life cycle, they've lasted since we've designed them. They're the product that you will find in virtually every marine store in the world. You see them on all the boats. That we replaced, well, didn't replace, but our biggest competitor had an aluminium product. We came up with a high-tech plastic with carbon to replace it. So it was light, it was less expensive to produce. We've sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them over the years, and they continue to sell. You know, a simple product, a cam plate. It's probably my favourite. What's yours?
Good.
What's yours?
Because I'm in the new age, I like the new highlight blocks. They were my baby. I kind of brought it into Ronstan and said, we need to have this because I can't find a block that I can't break at the moment, and I need a block that I can't break. And they are beauties. The Ronstan development team thought really long and hard about that, and they've come up with an absolutely sensational product. So I'm, tickled pink with that one, that's for sure.
Sure, yeah, I agree with you on that one, and I look forward to selling millions of them.
Well, that's it, mate. They're going gangbusters. So get in now, otherwise you'll miss out. No, not really. We'll make plenty. So, 44 years to stay at the one company. There's got to be something special about Ronstan. I think a lot of it's to do with you because you're a great figurehead and you're such a friendly guy, and you're so welcoming to everyone that does join the Ronstan. I'd say family, not company, family. So... Is that the way you feel too?
Yeah, that to me, well, I mentioned when that's the team and the culture. Yeah, it's the people. You know, what's special about Ronstan is the people. And as you know, when I was there, I valued that so highly, and I put a lot of time and effort into that, not because I felt that I needed to, but because I wanted to. And you know, I remember I'd have Monday mornings blocked out in my diary. You know, would be factory visit. Well, the visit was like it's out the back door. And you could ask, well, why would you put that in your diary? There was one very simple reason for putting it in my diary for 3 hours every Monday morning was so that I wouldn't book anything else over the top of it or get distracted or find myself or allow myself to do something else. So I would spend that 3 hours every Monday morning just on the shop floor, chatting to the people in the factory about what they did on the weekend, about their kids, you know, what they're doing in life, and knowing them personally, and you know, I've always placed a very high value on that. The people, you know, the culture, that's definitely the special thing about it. You know, I like to see people, Steve, who are excited about their work. You know, I complimented you on this series of interviews that you're doing. You're doing it because you love it. You know, you could just do your job, but you've recognised this as part of your job to open up Ronstan to the world a bit more and to introduce some people to Ronstan and Ronstan to some people. So, you know, I like to see people who are excited about their work, you know, like you are. Just as with the Australian sailing team, you know, we want the Australian sailing team to be champions, and I want Ronstan's people to be champions in the same way. And whether you be a champion in customer service or design or marketing, or a champion in tensile architecture, which obviously has been a really important diversification of ours. You know, no matter what you choose, if you love it and you're passionate about it and you set yourself up and you go for it and you become a champion, that's what we all want to do. We ultimately want to win in some way. And if that happens, well, you know, successful people and passionate people and motivated people translates into success for the company. And I think that's what we've got. I look at, you know, I have more involvement, Steve, with our management team than anybody else, than the people below them. You know, now that I'm non-exec, but I look at how hard every one of our managers works, and it just just blows me away. They work a lot harder than I do now, obviously. But I used to be like that. I put my heart and soul into it. And I see a lot of our people continue to do that. And the way I see it is, as long as that exists, Ronstan will go on to a lot of great things. And I know it was one of the things that Ron and Stan used to love about coming and visiting us, is they love to see the name continuing and the people continuing with the same commitment to it that they had.
No, exactly. I remember when you were there, going out and doing your Monday walks, and coming back a few hours later, and the smile on your face because you just had a lovely chat to Tony out the back.
So trying to get him to give up smoking.
He's older than you, isn't he?
Good one, Steve. Yeah, I always remind him that Tony is 2 weeks older than I am. We're both born in 1955, and but I love to remind him of the fact that he was born. I was born on Christmas Eve, and he was born on, I think it was the 9th of December. It's early December. Yeah.
Yeah. So every time I see you two together, it always gets brought up. So this will be my last question.
Yeah.
Ronstan, for the people out there that most people know the Ronstan brand, but they might not quite know where Ronstan sits in the world. Can you maybe give a bit of a rundown of how Ronstan sits in the marine world?
Yeah, Steve. Look, we're one of the true international brands. We're one of the top 3 or 4 in well, it's generally called sailboat hardware, in the US, but yacht fittings. We're certainly one of the top in the world. And when you go to like a Mets trade show, which is the shop floor of the world, you think there's not many people make blocks. I think at one Mets we counted 32 companies manufacturing blocks. We're one of the top 3 or 4, and we're truly known. I mean, I'd say you could say we're recognised everywhere. We're respected. We're admired. That's so key. And I think most importantly, Steve, we're loved by many. Because that ultimately determines whether people want to represent you, want to sell your products, want to talk about you, want to be a part of you. I love seeing Nathan Outridge and Tom Stingsby with Ronstan logos on their boats. It means they want to be, and Glenn Ashby, people like that. They want to be seen, to be associated. That's fantastic. I love thinking people like Victor Kovalenko. Who he doesn't just think of us as a sponsor. He loves Ronstan. Well, I don't know if he loves us as much as we love him, but it's a very mutual thing there. And then when I think of some of our customers, I travelled to Europe in October with my brother. The Brothers in Arms tour. You probably copped all of the the coverage of that. I visited a whole bunch of Ronstan customers just because it's what I do. And a good example would be Booker and Volt in Switzerland. We spent a lot of time with Manfred Booker, and he's been our distributor in Switzerland for 50 years. I first visited him 40 years ago, and to sit there with Manfred and to go to his company and visit his team again, it just shows you that his affection for the company and his commitment to representing us successfully, and his love for the brand and his relationship with the people is as strong as it's ever been. And I think that's where we sit in the world, Steve. We're known, we're respected, but most important, we're loved by a lot of people. That means a lot.
It is, yeah. Everyone likes to get on board the Ronstan train when we come around. So it's a lovely, it's definitely a lovely company to work for, and people look forward to you coming in and visiting them. That's for sure.
Thanks, mate. In fact, I'd say we're even loved by our competitors, and that's been important for me too. That I've gone out of my way along the way to foster relationships with not only staff but with customers, with our peers in the industry. Like we've got friends that are fellow suppliers to the industry, and in many cases they're our direct competitors. And I'm really proud to say that I number our competitors amongst my best friends.
Well, that's 100% correct. There's a sailing podcast out there called Bar Karate, if people don't know it. And obviously you do. You've been on it. But this week they released one with Peter Harkin. and he had that kind of words to say for you, and that's our #1 competitor. And he spent 5 minutes chatting about you. In fact, how you emptied his bar a few times. So,
Well, yeah.
if you haven't heard it yet, Alistair, you get some good praise from him. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I will. I haven't listened to that latest one, but it seems like we shouldn't be finishing a Ronstan feature, Australian Sailing feature, talking about Harkin. But no, Peter Harkin is one of my good mates. He was on the Sailing Illustrated show with Tom Eamon a few weeks ago, which I'm actually on next week. And I noticed he and Edith, his wife, were sitting there in their lounge room, for the hour, and in the background was a door, and that was the door to his bar. And the reason I know it's the door to his bar is that I've stayed at his house, and I've spent a lot of time in that bar. And I remember one particular night we had about 6 or 8 people over, and Peter and I went toe to toe in the bar, and I thought, geez, I'm 20 years younger than him. There's no way he's going to beat me tonight. And 1 o'clock in the morning, there was about 8 left. 2 o'clock in the morning, there's 6 left. 3 o'clock, there was 4 of us. At about 3:30 in the morning, there was Peter and I were the only 2 left. And I've got to admit, I hate to say this, but I think it was 4 o'clock, and I said, "Hey, Pete, I got to go to bed." So he sets the pace. He's a good mate, but we never stop trying to outdo each other. And that's what's good about competition.
That's exactly right. Well, Alistair, I really appreciate you coming on board. As I said earlier, you've been a target to come on board for a little while. You loved throughout the sailing industry. You loved at Ronstan. So, look, thank you very much, mate, for coming on board.
Thank you very much, Steve. It was absolutely my pleasure, and you did a great job as an interviewer. Good on you, mate. And I look forward to seeing you at Ronstan just as often as I can get down there, which is not as frequently as it has been in the past because of our current situation. I'm doing my best to stay away, but nothing gives me more pleasure still than to get down to the old firm and walk around and say good day to everybody. So
perfect. I look forward to seeing you down there soon.
Perhaps I'll sign out by saying good day to everybody.